Good afternoon, and thank you for joining today's Wednesday Wisdom program featuring Vice Admiral Jeffrey Trussler. And now a video from our sponsor, Mantech.
Mantech is widely recognized as the expert in advanced cyber. Our advanced offensive cyber capabilities are ever-changing and evolving. Mantech's partnership with the intelligence community provides a unique ability to deter foreign adversaries. Cutting-edge defensive cyber draws from our extensive experience in offensive cyber. The threat is very real, the enemy persistent, and you don't get a second chance.
Now please welcome INSA Executive Vice President John Doyen.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for Wednesday Wisdom. We're pleased to welcome today one of our community's senior leaders and a longstanding friend of INSA's to this program. Before we begin, let me make a few housekeeping notes. First, we do hope to make this session as interactive as possible. So if you have questions to submit today, please use the Q&A box on the right side of your screen. We have nearly 500 registrations this afternoon, and we'll do our best to get to as many questions as possible. Second, we're pleased to welcome members of the press to the call today. And this is a reminder that today's session is on the record. And last, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Mantech, for their critical support of this program. We could not provide this type of thought leadership without the support of our partners. Now I'm pleased to welcome David Britt, who many of you may know by his call sign Tuba, who is Technology Director for Mantech's Defense Sector Navy Division. Tuba, over to you.
Thank you, John. Mantech is delighted to sponsor today's INSA Wednesday Wisdom event with Vice Admiral Jeffrey Trussler. Mantech delivers offense-informed defense by leading the effort to design and deliver the joint warfighting architecture and the Joint Common Access Platform, as well as proofing cyber training at sea with our Secure Tactical Edge Platform's participation in the Navy Integration and Contested Environments Advanced Naval Technical Experiment aboard Stiletto this spring. Mantech's comprehensive all-of-government approach helps safeguard national security by protecting critical infrastructure, networks, and data while stopping sophisticated cyber attacks virtually on contact. Now it's my privilege to introduce today's guest speaker, Vice Admiral Jeffrey Trussler. Vice Admiral Trussler hails from the great state of Oklahoma and is a cowboy and a Sooner, as he has an undergraduate degree from Oklahoma State as well as a master's degree from the University of Oklahoma. A career submariner, he commanded the ballistic missile submarine USS Maryland and was the first commander of Task Force 69 for the U.S. 6th Fleet in Naples, Italy. His flag assignments include serving as the first commander over the Undersea Warfighting Development Center and as Director, Future Plans on the Navy staff. He is the current Navy staff in 2 and 6, where he is in charge of the Navy's intelligence activities, including cyber operations, and serves as the Navy's Deputy Chief Information Officer. Welcome, Vice Admiral Trussler.
Thank you, Tuba. Hey, I appreciate the intro. And, submariners and P3 Bubbas were close cousins in the Navy and anti-submarine warfare. So thank you. And John, nice to meet you. Thank you for having me here today.
Well, thank you. And thank you, Tuba, and to Mantech for supporting this program. And Admiral, we're so glad you can join us here this afternoon. And to get our conversation started, I thought I'd ask you to tell us some about your role as both the Deputy Chief of Naval Operations for Information Warfare and the Director of Naval Intelligence, and the principal missions that you have.
Wow, thank you. I just got to say, how lucky am I to get this job last June and take over for Matt Kohler in this position. About 11 years ago, in November 2009, the Navy created the information warfare community at the time. It was called Information Dominance. And as a Navy staff, they had the traditional N6 role, who did communication C4I systems, and they had the Director of Naval Intelligence, the N2. And one of the things that was done back then, it was seen as needed. Looking back, you got to say, wow, I can't believe I didn't do this sooner. But they combined those roles on the Navy staff to be the N2, N6 Deputy Chief of Naval Operations for Information Warfare. And since then, there's been a long journey that's still evolving. When we've created a type commander, information forces down in Norfolk, and the Naval Information Warfighting Development Center, we're still evolving that concept. But in my role, mainly, I'm a resource sponsor, budget stuff. To support the fleet we have now and the fleet we're trying to build for the future. And that's for communication systems, nuclear command and control systems, tactical data links, ISR capabilities, which is a nice mix with the intelligence community and the intelligence role overall, our enterprise business systems, our own oceanographic and meteorology systems, and then a policy role, whether that be a cyber, ocean systems policies, intelligence, and so forth. So I've got a fascinating job, and it's just a privilege to be able to do that and work with the folks I get to work with here.
Well, it sounds like there's a wide scope of things that you're responsible for. Well, let me ask you, so it's a new year and a new administration. Looking ahead to 2021 and beyond, what are your top priorities and challenges as we enter the new year?
Oh, great question. And as you say, the administration has just turned over, so we expect a lot of some changes in emphasis potentially. Lots of rumors, lots of things in the news about what might be happening, but the Navy is already underway. With some transformation and with some roadmaps that we put out. In fact, our goals in the Navy are one, to support the CNO's navigation plan. He just recently released that earlier this month at a Surface Warfare Officer Symposium. And this is his effort to get after a more lethal and better connected fleet. And the way he phrases it in there, and we're going to close the kill chain faster than our rivals with a resilient web of sensors, command and control nodes, platforms, and weapons. And I'll talk a little bit more about that depending on the questions we get. But the CNO's laid out some bold goals for us. You'll probably hear a little bit more about that in the future. But that navigation plan lines up very well with the tri-service maritime strategy, the advantage at sea, integrated all-domain naval power, we call it. Very similar themes about the potential adversaries we must prepare for, Russia and China, and the fact that we, between the Navy, the Marine Corps, and the Coast Guard, now more than ever have to be interoperable units, and we have to make investment decisions wisely, not be duplicative, but supportive. And collaborative in that. So those big focus for us. And then you will hear specifically in the Navy in the C4I realm that's going to support us in all of information warfare is Project Overmatch. I know that's gotten some support in the news about connecting our weapons, our sensors, our platforms in an agnostic manner to the decision makers. And so those are the three goals that I have in N2, N6 to support the Navy. It's supporting those strategy and emphasizing our investments and our efforts towards that.
Okay, talking about a little bit about investments, do you have some, can you share some of the major investments that you're looking at in the coming year?
Right. So we're going to be, we're looking hard at everything having to do with cyber and shoring up our systems quite a bit. Obviously there's a lot of activity, and something I've learned quite a bit in this job in 8 short months of the importance and frankly the battle going on every day. But mainly from the standpoint of the man, train, and equip of the forces we have to invest in, the capabilities we need to provide those forces, supporting the Fleet Cyber Command 10th Fleet that are in support of Generals Nakasone at Cyber Command. And so there's a lot of effort we have to put forth there. And we have to be robust in our resilient command and control communication systems, and make sure we shore those up. And so there's a lot of effort there. That's going to be going on. Can't get ahead of the budget process. It's ongoing. That's a dynamic situation right now. But you'll hear the CNO talk a lot about fleet readiness, and not just the investments in the capabilities we have, but we have to make sure we get the man trained and equipped right. So when we're putting things out there, we have training facilities available and ready for them, training processes for them, spare parts, the whole of the kill chain that makes the engine move for the Navy. So that's a big emphasis for us, is to get that balance and wholeness right, no matter what we're putting out.
Hey, you mentioned cyber. I wanted to circle back to that for a second. Of course, probably no surprise to anyone that there's significant cyber investments being planned, especially in light of the SolarWinds attack recently, the Russians' SolarWinds attack. So that reminds us that, SolarWinds reminds us of the significant cyber threat that's posed by our adversaries. And I'm curious, at this time, do you have any lessons learned from that event? And what is the Navy doing, short term to address some of the cybersecurity challenges you're facing?
Yeah, so wow, every day. And I know that the folks that participate in this forum probably have a lot more experience and knowledge than I do in this area. But let me tell you, it's a battle every single day. The good news is we're minimally, almost no impact by the SolarWinds event, to my knowledge, as of this morning, by the great work by Fleet Cyber Command, Vice Admiral Myers and his team to jump on that quickly under General Nakasoni's leadership. And what I'll tell you, it reinforces for us how we are going to have to battle every day, and these sort of lines of effort that we have to take to look at this. So if you remember our cybersecurity review that SecNav Spencer directed for us a couple of years ago, probably the biggest things, some of the biggest things we've done since then, and from some longer term and short term items. So one, we reestablished the position of the Chief Information Officer under Mr. Aaron Weiss about 18 months ago. Previously, the duties that fell under the cybersecurity world and Chief Information Officer, kind of held under the Undersecretary's job. So we reestablished that position. We brought in a ringer from industry who was working up in OSD. Mr. Weiss has challenged us at every turn with how to think differently, how to approach, how we look at our systems differently, and so forth. And he's put forth the information superiority vision to modernize, innovate, and defend it. He's put together a tremendous team up on the Secretariat staff. In the near term and short term, things we've been doing that were started before I got here, and some things that we're doing now. Our high-risk systems, we evaluate our systems independently, and if they're into a high-risk category, we treat them a little differently and give them some more scrutiny. And we found that we weren't moving the needle on them enough. And so my predecessor directed a stand down and said, we have to change how we deal with these. And we've brought those down about 50% over the last year. And we've put in implementation and mitigation plans to attack those by just kind of living with them and having black and white solutions. We're finding solutions in the middle ground to reduce that risk. How we evaluate those systems, the risk management framework, the authority to operate that we provide. A lot of redundancy and bureaucracy in that process that we're just attacking, and I'm slashing with every authority I have to make that lean and to make processes value added. So we've got to get faster and more agile in evaluating the systems. We're attacking that right now. We're evaluating all the Navy IT systems. We have a lot of systems, and this is something that Mr. Weiss has inspired and led for us. We've got a lot of legacy and accepted systems that aren't, say, for example, part of our enterprise systems, the next generation Navy networks. Again, we call it, includes NMCI, OneNet, things like that. Are we being redundant? The more redundant, the more you have, the harder it is for us to monitor, defend, and protect. We're taking some steps to add some efficiency and agility into known vulnerabilities and how we're going to patch, taken into some lessons learned we're learning throughout the Navy in the perform to plan process that Fleet Cybercom under Ross Myers is leading. So just a lot of things that we're doing to get after this. We can't slow down. We can't be complacent. And you know, I've never really been a fan of the word cyber hygiene, but we are got to re-emphasize with the team, especially in this telework environment, because we are now a little more distributed right now, taking advantage of collaboration tools. Now more than ever, we have to be vigilant because we're creating potential vulnerabilities and weak points that we have to pay attention to.
Hey, you mentioned being faster and more agile, which is, I think, something we all aim to do. And I noticed last week the Navy announced the establishment of a DevSecops task force, which looking to bring this best practice to the Navy more fully. And I'm curious, what are your efforts, or what are your expectations for that effort, and how adoption of DevSecOps approach could help with cybersecurity?
No, absolutely, and I think it's well known that the ability to utilize DevSecOps to evaluate software, to get it to test, to innovate, to rapidly incorporate ideas and get those onto systems and understand their vulnerabilities and their security posture. And as we have, as a Navy, and I'm sure lots of big organizations, figure out how to do that. Let the thousand flowers bloom a little bit, and don't stifle at the beginning and try to over coordinate. But we're now at the point where multiple organizations, systems command that do this for us are starting potentially to invent their own processes and investments and licenses, that it's now about the time it was recognized, okay, now we need a bit more of a governance structure. Let's buy it once, use it a lot, and take what we've learned throughout the Navy and the various commands that have started some of these efforts, and get it right early before we duplicate unnecessarily. And that we approach it for the, you know, we have to think about systems from a shipboard perspective. And we have multiple types of systems on ships that without a task force or an approach like this, we might invent and do something for this system and something very similar for this system. These systems are going to talk anyway, and they have similar characteristics. So that task force is going to identify some of those efficiencies and best practices we can take, and not be duplicative, and be more efficient in how we invest our resources.
I wanted to shift the topic a little bit, Admiral, to the Great Powers competition. And you know, as we look at Great Powers competition, increased focus on Russia and China, we've had a couple of questions come in. One is from Joe Kerr with BAE Systems, and he asked, you know, with the emphasis on intelligence that's focused on great power competition, what enhancements does Navy intelligence need as you tackle these challenges with great power competition?
Oh, no, good question. Great power competition. We're talking about Russia and China, and I always throw a shout out to them because I'm sure they're listening right now also. And here's where Naval Intelligence is involved. And this is, you know, as a career, submariner, you know, close cousin, you know, warfare community that's very interested in the intelligence business. But, you know, my first opportunity to kind of work as a, you know, with the intelligence professionals directly and help lead that community. But I come in with this as I learn in our business and how it fits into the Navy and how the Navy fits into the larger intelligence community. Here's how I describe how the Navy fits in that and what we need and where we use it. So one, I've been just blown away by the professionals, expertise, and capabilities of the United States intelligence community and all its agencies. I mean, just professionals, top to bottom, smartest people I've ever met. So we have a tremendous network, a very collaborative network. And so the United States intelligence community pulls in loads of data that the nation needs. And so one of the things Naval Intelligence does is we sift that information out that the Navy specifically needs in the maritime environment. We are the experts in collating that, sifting through that, how it's going to apply to what might transpire in warfare in the naval environment, how we might get decision advantage. That's why that's our purpose, to get decision advantage. And to collect and assimilate that for our acquisition, our engineering decisions, our threats. So, you know, that's pretty obvious. So we cull out what the greater intelligence community brings for us. Two, we're a global force. The Navy is a global force by nature, 24/7, 365. So we've got presence around the world every day, near our allies, near our adversaries. We're on the high seas, in the air, under the sea. So with that presence, we take advantage of that presence and we can collect intelligence. So that's one way, naval intelligence. We outfit and utilize the presence we have around the world globally. So those two sources fill a lot of gaps and provide us a lot of information that we need to prepare ourselves for that information advantage over the adversaries in great power competition. But then we still have gaps. There are still things that we need to know and want to know. Then that's where we come in and we decide, okay, the intelligence community as a whole hasn't pulled in some information we need here. Our presence around the world has added to that, but not necessarily. Therefore, that's where we stick some of our investments in going after and filling those gaps that we need to close to help us understand our adversaries, whether that's investments in equipment that we're going to put on some of our platforms, or how we're going to conduct some of our intelligence operations with the platforms we have, or how we're going to engage the intelligence community specifically to close some critical gaps for us to help us understand the kill chain we need to close, or what some vulnerabilities to attack in their kill chains.
Okay. Again, thinking about great power competition, we have another question in from Tony Capaccio, who's actually with Bloomberg News. He asked, for your views and assessment on the status of China's anti-ship ballistic missile, the DF-21D, and he wants to know if China's fully fielded this weapon now and its force structure, and in particular, do we know if it's in the South China Sea area?
Oh yeah, okay. The DF-21, the carrier killer, the anti-ship.
Right.
Wait a minute, you know, we obviously as a naval force, we track and specifically in our intelligence efforts, we track very closely the capabilities of our adversaries, and specifically those that might impact us on the high seas. So we watch that very closely. I can't say that they've. I don't know that we, you know, that we can say that that's been fully fielded yet. But we're watching their you know, shorter range 1,500 meter, their longer range 4,000 kilometer DF-26. We know they're out there. You've heard Admiral Davidson at Indo-PACOM you know, publicly comment that they've seen them test that against a moving target. And I don't, you know, I'm not going to get much more detail of what we know and don't know about it, but they're pouring a lot of money in the ability to you know, basically, you know, rim their coasts in the South China Sea with anti-ship missile capability. It's a destabilizing effort in the South China Sea, and the East China Sea, all those areas. When there are claims of some of these contested islands that are militarizing those areas, that's something we're going to watch very closely. It's something that confuses the international order and concerns the allies in the region. It's one reason we work to keep the global commons open and the free flow of traffic. But when you see that, those are troubling developments. They're probably aimed and specifically developed towards the United States Navy. So we watch them very closely. I hope they just keep pouring money into that type of thing. That may not be how we win the next war.
Okay. Hey, shifting to another threat to U.S. interests, let's talk just for a moment about Iran and Iran naval operations. And so, you know, they had a recent cruise missile test and a launch from Iran of a missile against a ship in the Indian Ocean. It just reminds us that, you know, Iran poses a threat to our interests. Do you have any comments on your views, you know, and your concerns regarding Iran? Wow.
Another, and it's very specifically destabilizing force, you know, in the Middle East. We're all well aware of the proxy groups they use and their support of the Houthis and other destabilizing organizations throughout the region. But from a maritime perspective, they sit at one of the great choke points of the world. Okay, they are, as I call it, the starboard side of the Strait of Hormuz.
Mhm.
And they regularly threaten, they have publicly threatened many times over the years the shutdown of the strait, the attacking of free-flowing traffic. They have regularly stopped tankers and sniffed around closely, snooped our warships coming in and out of the strait. And they could be a very destabilizing force on the high seas just because of their location. So we're very concerned. And the Middle East, although known largely over the last couple of decades for the land operations and work that's going on there, it is a maritime concern. It is a big maritime region and choke point, and the amount of, on a daily basis from a lot of countries and coalitions working to keep the region and the free flow of traffic stabilized. But any given day, there's a Chinese task force over there. There's Iranian naval task group out there. There's a combined military force, led by our Fifth Fleet commander Sam Paparo out there that's patrolling the region. But that one little strait where a lot of oil goes in and out every day that could disrupt the world markets, that is a potential, that choke point is a real potential flare up should a country like Iran do something stupid and impact the rest of the world and the free flow of commerce there. So that is a big concern. We watch it closely. That's why we're there, to keep that free flow of traffic moving every day.
Okay. Hey, let's switch to a topic that we've gotten actually a lot of questions about, which is the topic of the Joint All-Domain Command and Control Initiative, or JAAC. And there's a lot of questions about your views of JAAC and how the Navy will interact with its fellow services and the role that ISR will play.
My favorite topic. Yeah, JAAC gets a lot of press, and there's probably a lot of frustration out there because about a year and a half ago, an announcement, an initiative, something said, hey, Joint All-Domain Command and Control, we're going to do that. And perfect, great. We'd like to see the blueprint. We'd like to see the flyer. What are you doing next? How much will it cost? And when will it show up? And really, it starts out as the concept, and we're working on that. So let me back up a little bit. I'll give the Navy perspective and how we're working with the other services. So all the services, but specifically the Navy, we put out some tremendous platforms. We put out platforms, ships, aircraft, submarines that we outfit with organic sensors with which to defend itself and to provide some offensive effects, we'll call them. And we're very good at producing weapons that we can take with our organic sensors and put metal and explosive on targets. Okay. Where we may not be the best or originally we're good at is, well, wait a minute, why can't we take targeting information from somewhere else and send that down to the weapon system or into that weapon system in an in-flight update? We can do that. We have over the last decade with our Navy Integrated Fire Control and some other efforts taken a lot of those baby steps where we can communicate, we can pass weapons data over tactical data links. But we have now got to the point where we've said, you know what? Between the satellites we have, between the aircraft we have in the air, the ships at sea, the submarines out there, we need to be able to take sensor data from any of those, or even if they're not platform-based sensors that we may have out there. And it needs to be sort of path agnostic, recipient agnostic, and get targeting data or sensor data to the users, to the best weapon, not all weapons, but to the best weapon, and to the decision makers. So that is a concerted effort the Navy has. We call that Project Overmatch. You've probably seen a little bit about that in the press. That is our effort now to, step one, the systems we have in place. We can't just toss everything we have and start over. We have a 297 ship, Navy and a couple of thousand aircraft. We can't just on a dime, turn that. We've got to make the systems we have now work together, and every future system we make, it's got to be interlinked and interwoven and built to work together. Every service independently has also come to that same conclusion. The Army and the Air Force, the Marine Corps working with the Navy. You'll hear the Army call it Project Overmatch. You'll hear the Navy call it the Advanced Battle Management System. When all three services know they have same challenges and are working and making great strides in solving those problems, then as a joint force, the services, we all have to work together. That's what JAAC 2 is all about. So there's not an answer yet. There's not a spec sheet yet. Led by Dennis Kroll, the J6, up on the joint staff, putting together the strategy right now that we're reviewing. And we're going to start working together and closing those gaps we have to fill in our operational plan with the capabilities we currently have, and then how we're going to build the capabilities that we're going to need to make us ever tight, no matter the platform, the service it's from, the weapon it needs to get to, or the sensor it's coming from. That's going to be very powerful. That's our goal.
Okay, thank you for that. I think that probably covers most of the questions we had on that topic. So let me move to something else, and we've actually we have a question in from Tish Long here.
Big fan of Tish Long.
Thanks you for joining us. And sir, she asked you a question. Oops. My technology is failing me here. Here we go. She says it's always great to hear from you. And she asked a personnel related aspect. Can you talk to the personnel aspects, both military and civilian, about how recruiting and retention is going and how folks are doing during the pandemic and work from home?
Right. So let me start with the pandemic. Interesting. The pandemic has been tragic, obviously, but in the how it impacts us here at work and what we do, like many organizations, my perspective, and in the Navy, some things have happened. So one, it's provided some opportunity for us, because now as we sit here in 2020 and now 2021, you would think that the greatest nation in the world would have much better capabilities and have evolved its workplace structures to be able to telework seamlessly in many cases. We still have trouble on snow days, quite frankly. Of course, we haven't had any in DC in a while, where it's caused us to open our eyes and realize that out in the commercial sector, even other government agencies, I've got a neighbor that told me, oh yeah, we were required to work 2 days a week from home during pay periods before this pandemic. So this was an easy switch for us. Really, I didn't know that. We realized that when we in the Navy needed to shift to and reduce the manning in some of our office spaces down to 25 or 40%, depending on the time, we can't just stop working. What is our ability to telework? We had to rapidly upgrade the capacity of our virtual private network access and our Outlook web access to get to, just simple things like email. Those folks who had work laptops, we needed that VPN access to, up it up. I mean, we're talking, we went from something less than well under the 20,000, access points that we had. We increased it to over 90,000, and we're topping out about 90,000 average peak, every day. That just tells you, we were able to do it somewhat. But the collaboration tools, the processes by which we might do that, and how we might function. It's not just about technology, it's about culture. So we have learned a lot of things, and it's going to force us 21 years in to get into the 21st century and do business a little differently. The bad side of it is this is INSA, Intelligence and National Security. We deal with a lot of classified things. So a lot of the folks that work with me and for me, that work over with the Office of Naval Intelligence in the building here, we work in SCIFs. We do a lot of our work in SCIFs, so multiple classified systems. So that has made a little challenge, but that's just leadership challenges. That's just how you manage the workforce. It's whether it's just a brute force blue gold on off, whether it's you minimize interaction by having early teams and late teams. There are multiple ways that each organization here in the building and throughout the Navy are adapting to get their work done. We're learning some things, but it has forced us to think a little differently. But I'll tell you, the workforce, it's frustrated me personally in this job starting in the pandemic, because I'm a walk around, management by walking around guy. And when I go to our spaces and realize we are adhering to our current policy of only about 40% manning, it's been a struggle for me to meet and see everybody and get around, because we just have such a talented workforce. The opportunity side of that is, wow, let's just set up a virtual event and boom, everybody's online. So instead of the pack of everybody going down to the 600-person theater in the Pentagon, we can just do it online. And so we've done a couple of those sessions. So that's how we're managing dealing with the workforce right now during the pandemic. What was the other part of that question? I'm sorry.
I think you touched on it. It was the work from home piece for the and how that was going for the work from home. So, hey, we've got about 10 minutes, so we're going to try to squeeze in a couple more questions here.
Sure.
One of our listeners, Callie McNaughton, asked, what are the Navy intelligence enterprise top technology needs, and how can private industry best support you? So do you have any top
technology needs? Yeah. So good question. You got to be careful in forums like this to talk about the gaps you may have or the vulnerabilities you may have. But I'll tell you, we every advancement that exists, we need for AI, ML, we need to just suck in and learn from. Mm-hmm. The challenge we have, not just Navy intel or information warfare, is the amount of data and information that is out there. And we're well beyond the point where it's room full of analysts, whether it's handling information coming in whatever form of digital, whether that be reports, whether that be open source intelligence, whether it be SIGINT, or whether it be acoustic intelligence. We're going to have to put machines on that. We're going to have to put the algorithms in place to manage it. And what I'll tell you is very proud of where Navy Intelligence actually is on that. Over at the Acoustic Intelligence Agency, they have some tremendous AI projects underway that are getting after that. Obviously, in the maritime environment, in all the domains from seabed to space, there are many that deal in the surface domain, the air domain, the space domain, cyber domain. There is one service and organization that deals undersea, and that's the United States Navy. And that is the domain where we still have a large dominant margin. And it is because of that management of the acoustic intelligence and some of the tools and things we have there. But we need to keep pressing and keep learning in that arena. So Kelly Oshbach and team over at the Acoustic Intelligence Agency are doing tremendous work on those fronts. But in a technology need, I think across the board, AI, ML is top. What I'll also say from industry, back on sort of the C4I, JADC2 Project Overmatch, what you can expect to see, I think, from all the services, but particularly the Navy, and particularly when we're talking about it. So one, I'll say, keep pressing us. The innovation and the ideas from industry are huge. Keep pressing us, keep knocking on the door, keep showing us what's available and what you can do. Mm-hmm. The caution I'll give you is we're not going to be very satisfied with proprietary. We're going to be more interested in how is this going to leak into the systems we have? How is this going to help us advance a collaborative web to close our kill chains And we can never again invest in and solve our problems with proprietary things that we can't crack open, that aren't open architecture, that we can link in with the rest of our systems. Hopefully that answers the question.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we had a lot of interest, a lot of different questions on AI ML, which is where I was going to go next, and you just hit on it. So thank you for that. Let me ask you one more question here. Events throughout our country this past year have led many organizations to emphasize their commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the armed forces and the intelligence community are no different. What do you do as a leader to ensure that everyone in Navy intelligence and the IW community is valued and heard, and that they all have equal opportunities to advance and contribute to the mission?
Right. No, thank you. Ms. Long actually asked me a very similar question in a previous forum sometime last year, and I had a long way to come personally in this area. And you can see me. I'm the white male, kind of gray-haired, demographic here, and coming from the submarine community like I do, just for the first 111 years, purely a male-only community. And and I did most of my operational tours and many of my staff tours just with the submarine community. So I had a kind of a skewed view of the military as a whole, just because even on a lot of the staffs, because they're submarine-oriented staffs, a lot of submariners there, mainly male. It wasn't until I came to the about 12 years ago, came to the joint staff, come to work in the Pentagon, and started seeing the greater the services, and wow, we do have a lot of women, a lot of minorities out there. So at first I'm like, we must be doing pretty good. It's everywhere. I am surprised, but I've got my cage rattled a couple of times by not realizing how far we still have to go, where we're somewhat in our junior ranks, especially for example in the active duty, where we're overrepresented, by minorities, and underrepresented, in the officer or senior ranks. We've got a lot of work to do there from the active duty standpoint. On the civilian side, I think because there have been a lot, that didn't have those restrictions in place, we didn't kind of start with some of those disadvantages like we did in some of our active duty communities. But we still have a long way to go. I'm very proud of the Navy Intelligence Committee and Sandy Brown and Zev Goldrich. When I talk to them about that, they have some tremendous programs in place. And in fact, our hiring last year of new entry level hires, 41% minorities, 48% women. They have right now either underway or shortly forming resource groups for different women and minority sets that are actively engaged and trying and providing sort of resources for outlet. I've asked for excuse me, feedback from those groups. Early on in my tenure at an all hands, I really stuck my foot in the mouth when somebody asked me about the incidents surrounding the George Floyd upheaval that was going on. And I even, just some very insensitive language that might have been common to me based on where I come from and my background. I didn't realize I made some of my own staff kind of angry with some of the language I use. So I have benefited from some of that feedback. We've got a long way. To go. We have enthusiastically embraced the Office of Director of National Intelligence's Small Steps campaign. Those little steps you can take about inclusivity, just inviting one more person, including one more person, listening to one more person. So I think we've taken some giant steps here in Naval Intelligence and our INW community, but a long way to go, and we can never take the eye off the ball.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And that's going to end up being my last question. We are at the end of our time of this afternoon. But I do want to give you a chance, though, Admiral, if you have any closing thoughts you'd like to share with us, would love to hear those. And any last thoughts you'd like to share.
Hey, thank you. I just consider it a privilege to keep working, one, in our great Navy, and then, but also now supporting the intelligence and national security community. I hope some of the folks that have helped me out along the way are on the line listening, because there have been some real leaders out there that I have learned from. Tish Long has helped me out quite a bit. Sue Gordon, Stephanie O'Sullivan, Lynn Wright out there that's helped me. I've got tremendous Deputy Director of Naval Intelligence, Scott Bray, and his deputy, Sandy Brown, that support me in Navy intelligence. A tremendous community. Like I said, the information warfare community in the Navy is only 11 years old. We've every 3 years we've evolved to one of the bigger organizations like the Information Forces Command, the Information Warfighting Development Center. The steps to look like a regular community and combine that. Now have information warfare commanders at sea on aircraft carriers supporting the strike group commander. We've taken giant steps, but like with everything, the peak of that mountain is still a long way up, and we're evolving every day. A tremendous privilege to work with these professionals and to interact and integrate with the professionals of the community at large. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And thank you again. It's been terrific to host you this afternoon, and for your candid comments and insights. And for everyone online that's been with us, thank you as well for joining us. And a shout out to Mantech for their sponsorship of the program today. Looking ahead, I do want to let you know we have a number of things planned in the month ahead. In February, on the 2nd of February, we'll host Lieutenant General Mary O'Brien, who's the Air Force Deputy Chief of Staff for ISR and Cyber Effects Operations, and she'll be joining us for coffee and conversation. On the 11th of February, we're hosting Lieutenant General Scott Barrier, who's the Director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, for a leadership luncheon. And on the 17th of February, we'll be hosting our annual event called the Achievement Awards Ceremony, where we'll honor 6 extraordinary early to mid-level professionals in the national security, IC, and Homeland Security communities. We're excited as well that Stacy Dixon, Deputy Director at NGA, will keynote that event. Closing out the month on the 23rd of February, we'll hold a coffee and conversation with Rita Sampson, who's the Chief of the IC's EEO and diversity effort at ODNI. And on the 24th of February, we'll welcome Mr. Bill Lietzau, who's the Director of the Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency, to our Wednesday Wisdom program. All of these events and more are available for you to take a look at on our website, insaonline.org, and all the details are there. Hey, when the webinar ends today, we hope you'll take a minute to answer a brief survey that'll pop up and let us know how we did, and also if you have any recommendations for future speakers. This concludes today's program. Stay safe, healthy, and have a good afternoon.